Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to this first WSF Coaching Webinar in 2021. My name is William Louis Marie. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the World Squash Federation. I hope you can all hear me and you can see this, the first slide on the screen. We got 153 participants, which is quite amazing. And I'd like to thank all the panelists. Before we go into details into this presentation, I'd like to share with you a couple of housekeeping rules that you're going to see on the screen. First of all, there will be a Q&A time established after each presentation. So please keep your questions in your mind and put that and post them on the Q&A section that you can find. I'm sure that you are quite used now with this kind of Zoom webinar. Also, the chat or hand raising facility will not be available. We got more than 156 now participants. We want to ensure that this webinar is going to go smoothly and efficiently. And the best way to do it is to do it in writing. We know also as coaches how important it is to stretch out during these 3 hours webinar. So we will give you the possibility to stretch out during 2 intermissions that we will have during this conference for your own convenience. It's a real pleasure for us to start this webinar. For the last 12 months, 18 months, we haven't been able to meet in person, but webinar Zoom has also opened new opportunities, and it's time for WSF and specifically for the Coaching Commission to embrace this new digital landscape and to allow us to meet virtually and to share our key strategy moving forward, to have an update. So I'm going to give you a quick presentation of the panelists today. We got some very skilled, high-level panelists, and we're going to have an opening speech from the World Squash Federation Vice President and Chair of the World Squash Coaching Commission, Sarah Fitz-Gerald. And we will close with the WSF President, Zena Wooldridge. Coaching is very important for our community, is one of our key constituents, and I'm sure that during this 3-day session with JC Engelbrecht from SquashSkills Foundation Coach Course, Roy Gingell from the World Squash Officiating, Ronny Vlassaks from the US analyzing, doing some video analyzing using Zoom, and JC back, and also closing with Zena Wooldridge, our president. You're gonna have a good understanding about how important coaching is for squash, for the development of squash. And the fact that we have more than 166 participants right now behind their laptop, their different devices, is a real testament of the importance of coaching moving forward. Before I give the floor to Sarah, I'd like to share with you a couple of data we just collected from our nations. You know that every year we do some kind of a survey to have an understanding about the squash situation across the community all over the world. And this year, this survey has been more important than ever with the impact of COVID-19 for the last 12 months. The last event WSF has been able to organize, and Ronny was part of it, has been Washington, D.C., the World Team in December 2019. And we expect that 2021 will see the rebirth of WSF events. We're working very hard for that. And based on the elements we collected, we are quite confident about the future of squash. The first chart, you see the participation. First of all, we received 81 responses from our nation, which is quite a good percentage of response. That means our nations are really ready to share data, and so we have a good understanding about how can we move forward. A very important one on this slide, this is the aggregated data from all the players from all the nations. Only 1%, a very small fraction of our players, of our community, register to spin. That means there is a huge potential to increase the speed registration as soon as we're able to maybe provide more benefits, to give more clarity on what spin stands for. And this is one of the key pillars of our strategy moving forward. There is a huge potential. We know that a lot of our players, they just come to the court, they enjoy playing with their friends, with their families, socialize. But we are an international federation. We are here to give some kind of guidelines, to provide support, and going through spin is going to be one of the key objectives of the future. If we move to the breakdown of this participation on the second slide, you will see that it's very consistent across all the different continents of the 5 regions, except for Africa. But I think in Africa, it's mainly related to the structure of squash, with many squash courts owned by the army, by the police of the national authorities. Otherwise, from Europe to Oceania, you can see that the orange is taking the majority of the response in the chart pie. So this is where we're going to share also with all the region presidents to ensure they get a good knowledge about this situation. Going to the 2 coaching questions we asked during this survey, and it has been done with the support of Michael from the Coaching Commission. How many qualified squash coaches do you have? If you look at this chart pie, if we take the none and less than 10, we reach about more than 40% of the response. That means we got less than 10 qualified coaches in many nations around the world. And this is, I think, a very strong indicator of the potential of what we're trying to achieve. The more we get qualified coaches, I think the better to raise the level of our sport, the better the players will be. So it's a very important task for us in the future, and we will reflect on these figures and share the key countries which are lacking or behind the average to ensure that we're going to address specifically with the nations and work to increase the number of qualified squash coaches in the future. In the next slide, you will have also how do you qualify coaches, which is a very important. I have two kids. I can say I coach my kids, but I don't have any qualification. I don't have any certification, and it's very important when you speak about squash that you have qualified coaches in order to ensure consistency across the coaching system all over the world. I think we're quite pleased to see that 48% are using the WSF coaching qualifications. That means the work that has been done from the Coaching Commission for many years has been recognized, has been followed by most of the coaches. And we work very closely with the 40% who have a national coach qualification system. So now we need to increase, let's say, the share of the cake of the number of coaches all over the world to ensure that we can keep having more qualified coaches in the future. This is a very important tool to develop squash as we move forward. Of course, we got around 12% without any qualification coaching system, and this is something we need to address. We cannot allow our sports to be without strong guidelines, consistency across the coaching system in most countries all over the world. We have also added a couple of questions about different subjects. The first one is Squash 57 on the next slide. You know that Squash 57 is a very important discipline within the World Squash Federation. For many years, we haven't been maybe put enough efforts behind the development of Squash 57. And when you look at this, the response, we know that Squash 57 can really increase memberships, it's less demanding physically, and it brings more fun for the player, younger generation to the older generation. So there is a strong appetite from nations to know more about Squash 57. And this is something we're going to focus on also as part of our strategy. Squash 57 can really help WSF to really increase the number of squash players globally. And Squash 57 relates to the diameter of the ball, is really something we're going to focus on in the future. And the following slide, it's about inclusivity and diversity. We have set up a working group with Michael involved, with Roy from WSO, with officials involved, because we truly think that squash needs to be more inclusive in order to be more diverse in the future. It's really one of the key values for our sport, and coaches play a very important role. When a disabled person try to enter a squash court and try to play squash, we need to ensure there is the right response to this person. We need to be more inclusive. Some countries have been able to provide guidelines to really get the right support from the national government, and now it becomes quite mandatory to provide guidelines at the national level. So The working group we have set up will work very closely with all the different constituents across our community, from official, coaches, players, to ensure that we can provide guidelines and to help our nations to be more inclusive in the future. On the next slide, we see also the anti-doping issues. You know that as WADA compliant, the World Anti-Doping Agency and the International Testing Authority, education is going to be one of the major pillars for all the sports all over the world. And as WSF, we need also to have a strong education focus in the future. We can see that some of our nations are quite aware about the anti-doping education program, but we need to put more efforts behind that at a national level, regional level, but also at the WSF level. All our events, we will ensure that there will be a strong education component for the players, but the coaches are playing a very important role. You know your players, you spend almost many hours per day to train them, to ensure they're going to be better players, but we need to ensure that they have a strong knowledge about the education, about the anti-doping. This is a very important focus that WSF is going to do in the future, and we want to ensure that our nation is going to be part of this program, but also all the different constituents, including the coaching. I think the second slide is also about the anti-doping. Is your organization aware about the WSF anti-doping rules? Yes, 84%. So I really encourage you to go on our website. There is a lot of documentation about the anti-doping, about for the players. They have developed WADA, many educational platforms that are really useful for all the players, but also for the coaches and the officials. So I really encourage you to be more curious about the education part of the anti-doping, to go on our website, and we will ensure that in the future we will keep communicating strongly about this important anti-doping program, education program. So now I think it's over for me. I had 10 minutes to introduce these data, which are very important, and I'm quite pleased to give the floor to Sarah Fitz-Gerald, our WSF Vice President and the Chair of the Coaching Commission. So Sarah, I think now I give you the floor. I have spoken enough, so my pleasure. And I'd like to thank you very much, Sarah, for being with us. You're on the other part of the world. It's quite late evening, but I'm sure it's very important for you to send a very positive message about this community that you know very well. You have been very involved, and you know the importance of having your right coach next to you if you want to raise the top level.
Thank you, William. Firstly, welcome to everyone, and I'm very curious to see at the end of this webinar exactly where everyone is from, the countries and how many people. So firstly, welcome. And so I am Sarah Fitz-Gerald. I'm the current chair of the Coaching Commission. I'm also Vice President of the World Squash Federation. I have been on the Coaching Commission now for my whole time during World Squash Federation, and I have got to know our tutors really quite well and have been fortunate enough to spend time with them in different parts of the world as they do their job, and they're very good at it. We have the tutors that we have. First of all, we have Michael Kahn, who is in Austria. We have Jason Fletcher of New Zealand. Colin White, who is from Northern Ireland, but working and living in the US. Major Maniam in India. Renato Gallego, who's in Brazil. And Ronny Vlassaks, who's Belgian, living in the US. And he is one of our presenters today. We also have Jesse Engelbrecht, who is from South Africa, but living in the UK. So he's presenting, and I can see him smiling at me right now. And I've known Jesse quite a long time. We have Roy Gingell, who is from Wales, and he has, if you're watching much squash on PSA TV and watching any matches, you'll probably often hear Roy in the background. He's one of our world's best referees, often doing PSA events. Just want to thank Charlie, who has helped put this presentation together, and Charlie Holton, who's down in Peru, Carol Hackett in our office, and of course, William, who've put in the time and the effort. As we all know, 2020 and 2021 so far have been very strange years for so many of us, with not much travel at all, and we haven't been able to do what we normally do, get out and play squash and go be involved and coaching and getting involved in our favourite sport. So this is a first for us. It's our first webinar. So I'm sure everyone's going to do a great job, and hopefully you've all got good internet connections that you don't miss out on hearing anything. This is being recorded, and from what I understand, it'll be on YouTube later today. And also our foundation course will be open in approximately a week. Maybe Michael can confirm that. So the presentations that everyone is doing today hopefully will be very thought-provoking for you, give you an opportunity to ask some questions, guide you, teach you, and give you some new ideas of what you might be able to use in your future coaching. One of the main things we're looking at today is for the World Squash coaching is to start creating, or we have been doing this, but to keep pursuing this, a clear pathway and trying to get very consistency across all of our coaching, and with our tutors are doing that worldwide. But it's to help you come into the World Squash Federation coaching family. We want you involved. We want to develop more coaches from all around the world and keep growing the coaching family. And on that note, I will say welcome. The webinar is now open, and please have a great webinar, and please feel free to ask questions, and our tutors will do their best to answer you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And again, thank you very much for staying quite late. I think the message has been very clear: consistency. And speaking about this pathway, we really want to know more about what's going on at your local level, national level. And we can see that on the Q&A, we see a lot of also questions moving forward. We will have time to answer that later, and we will make sure that the presentation and the key data will be shared with you. We will go through the coaching commission to ensure that everything has been done properly. I think now we're moving to Jesse. Jesse, it's a pleasure to welcome you for this webinar. So I'm very pleased to hand over to you to discuss about SquashSkills Foundation Coach Course, a very important initiative that has been developed with the support of the Coaching Commission, and I'm sure it will also help to increase our coaching community. Jesse?
Awesome. Thank you, William. Really great to be here. I know of the 180 people currently online, there's a few friends out there. So thanks for joining in, and hopefully you enjoy what I've got to present you today. Like I said, thanks for being here today, and thanks for giving me this opportunity to be able to present to you this first ever online World Squash Coaching Foundation course. It's a real pleasure and an honor for me to be here today, and I think you will hopefully enjoy what I'm about to show you. There's a lot I would like to cover in this short space of time, so I'm going to get cracking pretty much straight away. And as I go along, please do post questions, as we will be monitoring the chat box, and I should be able to get to answer some of these questions at the end of the presentation. So for the best part of 12 months, we have been working weekly on this project and are very excited. It's now about to go live and ready to roll out worldwide. But before I go on, I need to say a few quick thank yous. Firstly, thank you massively to Michael Kahn. This has been a joint project from the start, and without him, this would be nowhere where it is today. So a huge thank you from me, as he has kept me on track, focused, and inspired me to do some of my best work. He has cracked the whip a few times, so I kind of am thanking him for that, but I'm not sure at the same time. Thanks also to the World Squash Federation and SquashSkills for having the vision for this project and the backing of it. Thanks also to the Woking Squash Club and their chairman in particular, Stuart Perry, for accommodating us with the filming of the course on the courts. Thanks to the players that were involved in these videos, and also the huge help of Rob Beaumont running the group coaching module in this foundation course. And my final thank you is to Charlie Hulton for translating the whole body of work into Spanish, a massive, huge task that he did with speed, quality, and efficiency. and we can now access more Spanish-speaking regions because of this. I do have to make an apology for anyone trying to translate some of the stuff I say because it comes from within, but Charlie's done a great job with that. So thank you for that. Okay, so let's dive in. I'm going to share my screen with you to show you what this online course feels and looks like for the user. We focused on this being a lot more virtual or a lot more visual than any other coaching courses currently out there. And being majority video-based and less text-based, we believe this gets the message across in a much more impactful and coherent way to the user. So this is the landing page that the user will first see when they sign up to the course. So I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully, like I said, internet connection is okay. So a new user would be signposted to this screen. You know, the team at SquashSkills have done a great job putting it all together in association with World Squash Federation. And it's very simple, very easy to use, and I think looks really professional from the word go. I was going to play this little 1-minute video for you, but I'm conscious that Zoom internet connections aren't great and it's a little bit jumpy, but the user would watch this video straight away, and it's a real inspiring minute just to show what's going on. And this landing page, this website, just walks the user through exactly what they can expect. I think this is a real important bit, the course structure. We've broken it down into 7 different modules, and this is where Michael and I spent, you know, a good few weeks leading into months really trying to get the modules right and get into the mind of what a foundation coach should be and what we need to present to them. You know, PE teachers, parents, current players, even young juniors, maybe looking to do coaching. There's some seriously key fundamentals that we wanted to make sure we got the point across to give them the confidence to go out and coach. Also, it's ideally going to be a massive platform for them to do their level 1 and 2. So these modules, the user can go through them. And throughout this whole landing page, there's always the sign up little sections, really easy. Click one button and it takes you to the sign up bit. And it goes into a whole bunch of detail. I'm not going to show you much more of this, but that's the landing page, which I think is really easy to use, nicely, beautifully laid out, and good to go from there. Okay. They'll be able to see this screen before buying. So I'm gonna share the next little bit with you. So once they click on the sign up bit, this is what it will look like for the user. So a nice, easy way to get straight in. And I'm going to share this video in a moment. It's my introduction to it, and hopefully the internet is okay for this because it's just mainly talking. So if the video is a bit jumpy, hopefully it's not too much of an issue. And I'm actually going to play it now so we can have a little look at it.
Hello, and welcome to this World Squash Coaching Foundation course in association with SquashSkills. My name is Jesse Engelbrecht, and I'm going to be your coach and your tutor throughout this online course. It's been absolutely wonderful designing the course over the last few months with World Squash Federation, and the depth of knowledge of what we believe we've put across for you is fantastic. There is so much good information in regard to becoming a foundation coach. We will touch on so many different topics, so many different areas that ideally by the end of the course, you will have such confidence to be able to go and coach this game. The idea behind making it online is accessibility. We want you to be able to easily access the content, to go through it in your own time, and to be able to practically take it and use it in the real world. We need more people playing squash. We need foundation coaches to be motivators, to be able to inspire people to get on the court, to keep them playing, to keep them engaged, to have fun, to keep them challenged. Currently, squash needs this. And the idea behind this course is exactly for that. Can you be the next motivator, the next person to inspire, the next person to get a group of novices playing the game and improve them and keep them in the game for life? We'll be covering topics such as learning styles, the role of the coach, safety and equipment, rules of the game, and lots of fun things whereby you're going to be coaching groups. What games, what skills can you use in that situation? How can you keep an individual player on it and improving and motivating? I really look forward to taking you through this course, and we've designed a whole bunch of modules whereby you would watch the modules from beginning to end. You would be quizzed on them. There will be some multiple choice questions, and the quiz is not to try and catch you out or to try and fail you. It's there to prompt you, to get you to question, to get you to think about what you've noticed on the videos, what you're observing, and how you can take this and put it into your own coaching, in your setting, in your club, in your school. We're targeting PE teachers, current squash players, parents, anyone who feels motivated to learn this game, to learn the nuances and the subtleties around coaching. We have done a lot of research and looked at a lot of modern coaching methods from multiple different sports, and we believe we've taken the key aspects from these philosophies and these coaching ways and brought them together in this online course. Coaching has changed and evolved over the years. It's so much less about dictating to your students. It's so much more about bringing them on a journey, understanding their needs, accommodating for the reasons they are at your facility or playing this game. So I hope you get a good bit of knowledge, a good bit of depth throughout this course, and I really look forward to seeing you being challenged, to seeing you think about your way you coach and your style and being reflective along the way.
So that's what the user would see pretty much straight away from the landing page. That's the first video that comes up, and that video gets presented even before anyone has to part with any money. So it gives them a real flavor of what it is. I'm just going to share my screen again with, so give me 1 second. It seems to have disappeared. Here we go. So I'm going to go back to the landing page. And looking at this, it's a very simple process. The idea, you go through the course from beginning to end. And as you can see, there's a lot of videos along the way. And every time we've done a video and every time I presented something like Role of the Coach, we now follow it up with a text summary. So there's a PDF graphic where people can also read it. But like I said, the majority of this is all about the video presentation and for people to get to learn in the visual fashion. And what we've done at the end of each module, so for the Role of the Coach, there's a whole bunch of videos that go on. And then the user would have to pass what's called a test at the end of it. So they'd have to pass that module for test 1 to be able to go and access the next module. And the beauty about this is people can learn at their own pace, at their own time. It roughly takes 8 hours to go from beginning to end through it. So someone can sit within a day and crack it out and just get it done. But we don't necessarily encourage this massively because we want the learning to marinate a little bit and get the users to think a little bit more about what they're doing. Yep, and that's pretty much what the user will be looking at as they go through. There will be the final test, and the final test, as I think I said in that introduction video, it's not necessarily to try and stump people out. You can go back and retake the test, and there's things you can do in order to go back and look at specific parts you might not have got right, and then be able to retake it. And that final test is to stimulate the brain, to get the user to think about what they've just learned and to give them the confidence to be able to go out and be able to coach. So at the end of the course, like I said, there will be, once that test is passed, the user will get emailed a certificate right away with all the credentials on, and they will also be given a downloadable assets pack. And we worked quite hard to get this quite right, I believe, and I think this downloadable assets pack is going to be a real key bit as well. So I'm just going to share with you what this would look like. So the user would get an email around this. And what this downloadable assets pack is at the end of the course, we go through a bunch of different things. Planning a lesson. So we'd talk to the user about how you would structure a lesson from starting games to fundamentals, to simple rallies, to fun games. There's also a template for lesson planning sheets, and I've also filled one out there myself, which was quite good fun to put myself back in the mind of beginner juniors and work through it. We believe this is going to be a real powerful asset. So playlists on SquashSkills.com, whereby the user who wants to gain more knowledge and more depth on top of what they've learned, these are all the playlists that I've selected that would really signpost users to go into a little bit deeper around the tactics and the movements and the mindset possibly of beginners, but maybe just going up a little bit higher. And yeah, it covers a lot of good bases, these downloadable assets, the playlist in particular. And at that point, each user will be able to get 3 months free access to SquashSkills.com. So when they pass, that will activate a 3-month membership, and they can go and look at all these videos and playlists. Again, a bit of further reading. So if coaches want to go a bit deeper into understanding different things, I recommend books like The Talent Code and Every Moment Matters, books I believe are fundamental for coaches to be able to read. And we also included a couple of very basic posters. So if coaches want to be able to print the poster off, write where, when, and cost of a beginner session, and same with a junior session. We will be adding to this downloadable assets pack as we go along, but we thought this was a nice basic way to get it up and running for the users to then have something as soon as they finish the course. So not just to finish and go out into the wild, to give them a bit more confidence to be able to use it. So that's it in a nutshell. But there's a couple of messages I just want to talk about here, and then I might be able to get into some Q&A if there's some questions that have been coming in. We are hugely proud of the work we have done, and we believe we have massively lowered the barrier to entry for people wanting to get into coaching. I think this is the key thing, is we need to lower that barrier. We need to make it easy. A few clicks of a button, you're starting a course, and it's laid out really simply, really easily, all online. We now need your help, however, and this is the call to action. Squash needs more foundation coaches at the base of that pyramid. Our big picture aim is to get at least 2 people qualified worldwide in every single club. And then for those coaches to be able to bring 10 to 20 new people to the sport and retain them. So it's a big goal, it's an ambitious goal, but if we break things down into 2 foundation coaches per club across the globe, I also think this is massively achievable, because the barrier to entry is so low, and the price point, it's £99. You know, it's not the most expensive thing out there. And also with the help of the member nations, this can also be exposed to more people. If this is achieved, the future of squash will look a lot brighter. We need the message to filter down throughout each of the member nations. This means we need governing bodies acting, regions acting, and clubs acting. If you know someone who is able to help get the message out, please, please, please do help us spread the word, encouraging people in your circle to consider taking this course as a fantastic entry point into coaching. If you need to, please contact the SquashSkills office. You can email them. The best email to get them on at would be sandra@squashskills.com. That will filter back to me, filter back to Michael, filter back to the WSF. That's a great starting point if you need any more clarification around this course. So sandra@squashskills.com is a great person to touch base with. And there is a final disclaimer from me. Please do check with your national governing body to see if there are any further requirements needed to be able to work as a coach in your country when you've achieved the Foundation Coach Award. We've put that disclaimer on the website and it's very clear, but I would always encourage people to check with their national governing bodies if that allows them to coach. There is different insurance things and maybe CRB checks that need to be looked at. So that's definitely worth looking at. So my final message, and for everyone to think about and take away with them, every great player had to start somewhere. And studies have shown that the biggest influence for young people starting a sport is their first contact with a coach. A good coach has the interest of their players at heart and is able to create a fun and engaging environment. Their technical and tactical knowledge is of course important, but the true mark of a great coach at the grassroots level is having the skill to ignite passion in their players. This is all about building rapport with people. John Wooden, who is considered the best NCAA basketball coach of all time, sums it up beautifully in regard to coaching the individual. He says, "You are only ever one conversation away from changing a young person's life." Thank you for listening. And I will now have a little look to see if there's anything in the chat box that I can answer, and we can go from there. Great. So there's a few little chats which I'll read out first. So Amit says, how different is this course going to be from the WSF Level 1 coaches course? Would the content be repeated from what we learned in that course? There is going to be some overlap, of course, but we've really tried to get into the mindset of what a PE teacher would look like, or someone who's maybe doesn't really know the nuances of coaching. A lot of it is about relationships, building rapport, being the best coach you can be, not necessarily the technical and tactical knowledge. That's important, and there's quite a bit of it in there, but it's much more about having the confidence to engage with the players, to have those little skills, and they're called soft skills. I don't necessarily agree with the word soft skills, because for me, they're actually probably more important than that. They are probably the most important skills at that foundation level. And the way we looked at building this foundation course was a lovely springboard straight into your level 1. And this is still early days, but over time, this might become a prerequisite to your level 1, and it might even reduce the amount of contact time for the level 1 for people to be able to do the online coaching course, for them to then enter a level 1, and for the tutor to be confident that, you know what, they've got the foundation of what is there. There will be some repetition, of course, but again, with Michael and myself, Michael is very aware of the level 1. We looked at it and we really tried to ring fence some of the main key bits that we thought were there for the foundation course. So I hope that helps a little bit, Amit, answer your question. I've got 3 more to go through and then I will close up. So Yvonne says, will this replace the normal physical course or separate? So maybe I've answered the question there. It's the one level below level 1. But if it's successful and it's starting going really well, our big vision is possibly thinking, what other courses can we take online, or what other bits can users get online without actually spending a lot of money to travel and take a lot of time out of their days and their weeks and their weekends. So yeah, it's not going to replace anything at the moment, but it's the platform, it's the base. And even coaches who are level 1 coaches, we would actually recommend them to go have a look at this and try it out, because there's some such key things that we've put in there that might not even be covered in the level 1. And like I said, a lot of it's about those rapport, those relationship building skills, which are hugely essential. Rehan says, is the coaching foundation course also targeted at young players to then be able to help with beginner groups? Absolutely. I'm really looking forward for this to be part of some of my juniors. So maybe the 15, 16, 17-year-olds, I'm going to start to give them a nudge and say, hey, listen, have you thought about, jumping on this foundation course? This could be a real cool thing to be able to do, just to spark their knowledge, spark their interest. And us as coaches, hopefully we can identify those juniors who show that passion for the idea of giving back, for the idea of coaching more. And as soon as we see those character traits in those juniors, I think we've also got to fuel that fire. I've got a little philosophy at my club. I always try and recycle my juniors back into the program. So currently one of my first juniors I coach is my assistant coach now, and he's mentoring a 16-year-old girl who's now going to take over when he leaves. And the juniors tend to recycle back into the program. So for me, that's a great way to try build a foundation of our coaches, and this foundation course might be part of it. Okay, last question here, because I'm conscious I'm probably taking up too much time from everyone. Italo says, hi, this is Italo from Guatemala. Hi to all. The foundation coach has multiple languages. What is the difference between the WSF level coaches and the WSF foundation program? Is that the same content? Not quite sure of the question there. Maybe someone can help me there. But in regard to this, let me just read that again. Multiple languages. Yes, it's being translated into multiple different languages. Spanish, as I said, Charlie's done that, and we are going to try do it in, I think, Chinese at some point, and Russian. That's the next plan to go there. And yeah, I can't really answer that question too much. Michael might be able to jump in there and type the answer to that. The difference between the WSF level coaches and WSF foundation. Michael, if you want to unmute possibly, do you want to jump in and answer that one?
I'm not quite sure what Italo's trying to say. Obviously, the foundation program is below the level 1, but that you said that already. So maybe Italo will exchange an email or something like that and discuss it further.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you. And one more question's come in, so I will answer this. Coaches and tutors from Khaled Atlas Khan who are already qualified can get the foundation course. Will they be charged for taking the foundation course? Again, not quite sure. We would encourage people to go on, but that's maybe a conversation to have if we want more people to try this course, whether there's a discount, whether that's free of charge. I don't want to say anything at the moment, but that's probably something to definitely have a look at in the future. So I'm going to pause myself there. When will it be available? Very last one. I keep seeing one more come in. We are hoping it's going to be next week. We are we had a plan for the last couple of weeks. It's all there. It's been sitting ready to go. We just needed a few loose ends tied up. The whole package is ready to go. So we're really hoping it's going to be next week. So Adam, thanks for asking that question. And I'm going to pass it back to William for now. But thank you very much for listening. Hope that was insightful. Over to you, William.
And thank you very much, Jesse. I think it's great to see your passion behind this program. And I was involved for the last couple of weeks. And I have to thank you very much. Thank also Michael and the entire team to be able to build up this program. And what we have seen is very encouraging. As you say, we want to complement the existing programs and bring new players, new coaches, new people within our community. And the call for action is very relevant, because the more coaches we're going to have, and through this kind of foundation program, we can help them to say, oh, there is a journey. Maybe I will go to level 1, level 2. and we give them exactly what we want. You know, we need to inspire people, inspire players, inspire coaches with the right skills to some extent, with the right techniques. And this is what you say. We are just one phrase, one word of changing the life of the people coming to the court. Say, I like to hit some balls. I like to know squash better. What can I do for you? What can you do for me? And this is exactly what we're trying to achieve. Bring more people to our sport, because we know our sport. We love our sports. We know it's one of the best sports in the world. We need to have the right environment to ensure that one kid, one young girl coming to our court, she's going to love it because she's going to have the right support, the right coach. So thank you very much. And we're working very hard to be able to really share this information, this course in a couple of days. Couple of dots to just to solve, but I think it was great to be able to showcase in avant-premiere this foundation course. And thank you again for your deep work. And I know that you're gonna have a couple of minutes to rest before coming back for the second round. So next, now I'm very pleased to welcome Roy Gingell. We know that between sometimes players, coaches, and the official, it's not really easy to have the same understanding about our sport, about the way the officials are seeing the I think squash. So it's very important to ensure that Roy, is the chair of the World Squash Officiating Commission. He's been able to attend this webinar today, the first one, to share his view from the official point of view. And we know that Jesse mentioned, and also Sarah mentioned, the importance of all our constituents, official, coaches, players. We are part of the same family, so we need to look in the same direction and to ensure that everything we're doing are fully aligned. So Roy, are you ready to now give us an understanding about what you think and how you're moving forward with this coaching?
Yeah, thanks, William. Thanks for letting myself from the World Squash Officiating give a short presentation today and bring people up to speed where exactly we are with our portal, the World Squash Officiating. I'm gonna share my screen with everyone as we start. And basically, I'm going to give you a whistle-stop tour of where we are with the World Squash Officiating website. Like I said, I'm Roy Gingell. I'm the director of WSO. Please take the website details on the screen down, www.worldsquashofficiating.com, and as per Jesse, I'll be happy to pick up some questions after the slideshow. Just a little bit of background. The WSO is a partnership between WSF and PSA to create an online blended learning, education, and appraisal portal. We are looking to standardize, as per the coaching portal, official qualifications worldwide, while also adding value-added resources for every squash enthusiast. What does the WSO website contain? I'm obviously just going to go through a quick slideshow with the key categories, what it entails in the new format. But basically, it's a one-stop shop for everything to do with officiating. It's a massive resource for every player, from beginner to elite, every coach, every referee, and enthusiast to go to and get information on the latest updates. It contains the latest rules, more importantly, the latest interpretations, the correct line of thinking, all backed by the latest current video footage and resources. There's actually videos from the tournaments that have taken place in Egypt in December, currently on the system. To find out more, what do you do? Well, basically, we are just encouraging everyone to log on, sign up for free access, create an account so that we can capture everyone's details and basically browse all the resources which are contained in the site. I'll drill down a little bit deeper to some of the key sort of sections within the site. This particular section, the video library, I would recommend to all you coaches that are currently on this call. It's definitely the main go-to section for all squash enthusiasts. You do not have to access the site to take exams and to pass as a referee. The video library has got 5 key areas of filters which we have developed, and it's an extensive library of all decisions, and obviously as it's an ongoing process, it's linked to the current events, and all different types of decisions are contained in this section. The decision type, no let stroke yes let, the ability to filter on 9 areas of the court, so we can look into specific good and poor movement both on and off the ball. The difficulty of the decision, so the nuances from the easy decision to the more difficult decisions, and how to look at the subtle nuances and movements of different players. The type of interference, which it could be a swing interference, access issues, minimal interference. So all the types of interferences that we have, all referencing then to the specific rules. So the ability to filter the already couple of 100 decisions we have in this video library. And as you could expect, that library is being constantly updated. So that is a definite go-to for all your coaches within this call. We have an informed basic rule section itemizing every single rule, and I believe there's probably 170 plus individual sort of rules of single squash. They are all listed. As you can see, they are all broken down with the ability to filter each and every rule. And actually, we've gone a step further. For those really interesting, difficult to understand rules, we have on a progressing video footage to further explain each and every rule. Again, this is ideal for the beginner, the improver, the elite athletes, obviously the referees, and you coaches in explaining and keep up to speed with the modern day specific interference and interpretation linked to the current line of thinking in the modern game. So we are encouraging everyone to go to this site. We have a resource section. Within this resource section, there is ongoing information, amongst other things, various flowcharts on the line of thinking, clarification sort of notices, basic things, sort of score sheets, specific areas of the rules, and all relevant information for everyone, not only the officials. So everything in relation to the rules. Membership of WSO. So straight away, membership is free for level 0. There are 6 levels, level 0 through to level 5. People can go on and create an account and actually have a go free of charge and take the level 0 test and access all those resources listed on the site. Thereafter, there is a price band which I put on one of the graphics there for the level 1 through to the level 5. This is an annual fee because, as you can understand, these resources, this website is current and evolving. The game is evolving, and current interpretations and improved interpretations and explanations will be listed on the website. For those of you depending on your location, there will be 3 sort of currency options as well. Those of us that enjoy refereeing, and there are a few of us, if you are an enthusiast or looking to be a little bit more serious about testing your current knowledge against these current rules, interpretation, and line of thinking, then you are able to take the theory tests. And as you can see, myself, I've taken these 3 theory tests. Level 0 on the rules through to level 3 gives you a comprehensive knowledge of the rules. Step by step, drip feeding your information into how you referee a match. At this stage of the development, level 0 to level 3 is contained on the WSO site. Each level, exactly the same format as Jesse explained earlier, contains a series of interactive modules, all linked to the blended learning. You work through the module individually. At the end of each module, you take the test. The tests at the moment are a selection of questions and videos linked to that specific learning. Those videos are taken from the host of, like I said, 200-300 videos within the video library. They are sectioned at easy, medium, and difficult sort of videos. So depending what sort of level you go in at, there is a mixture. There are some 300 sort of referee questions, which we've picked through, which are pulled through, all linked to that specific test and aimed at testing your specific knowledge. To gain the theory part of the test, then you obviously take the questions at the end of the modules, at the end of the level. You gain the appropriate percentage pass mark, and then you are able to continue. Obviously, then with refereeing, there are 2 sides to this learning program. On the WSO site, we have the theory. We've got to then blend in with the practical. So you, after completing the theory part, the practical part must be completed to confirm your level. So your line of thinking and your knowledge of the rules, your interpretation of the rules, and more importantly, how you apply them correctly to each and every situation must be demonstrated. So within each level, within the resources pack, there are a set of requirements. And again, on the screen, I have showed you the example of the requirements. These are contained in the resources section and will, for level 2 and level 3 and upwards, include things like appraisals, periodic online testing, feedback from your peers and self-reflection forms, and where appropriate, local member nation mandatory accreditations, i.e. might well be things like child welfare, might well be even a first aid sort of course. So all valid for 2 years. So in summary, to confirm your level, you must complete both the theory and the practical part of the examination. That's a whistle-stop tour. Going live, basically we're at the same sort of stage as the coaching platform. We're at the end of our soft launch. We've been doing it for the last couple of weeks, sorting out some very minor snagging lists. We've worked with people from all around the globe in helping us fine-tuning this snagging list. And hopefully we will go live at the end of next week also. We would encourage all you coaches out there to get everyone to access the site. Our next stages are to work closely with the member nations, with the federations, to encourage all their referees to migrate across and to take the test. And obviously for them to complete the practical element of the course. We recognize this is going to be the most challenging part, to enable sign-off, validation for each and every level. As you can appreciate, like the coaching portal, this is a great opportunity for WSO to promote clear officiating guidelines across the world. There are many opportunities involved here. The continuous development, the improvement of the site, and the next sort of stages is to input both level 4 and level 5. And we are currently working on those modules to get those onto the site, along with the recognized appraisal sections, the appraisal models, the mentoring modules, and thereafter the doubles rules and information, Squash 57 rules and information, to enable us to have a firm one-stop shop for every squash enthusiast. So there's lots of massive opportunities for this brand new initiative. Okay, many thanks. Just a little bit at the bottom. Please go onto that site, have a browse, create an account and have a look. Give us the feedback and encourage everyone to go and have a look at this site, www.worldsquashofficiating.com. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Roy. I think it's been it's a phenomenal journey, being able to get to this WSO, platform, done in partnership with PSA. I think for more than a year now. You've been involved for many years with this platform, and to see this almost coming alive after this development, it's a great success. You led a team of people from all over the world with advisory board, and it's an amazing work that you've been doing for the last couple of weeks, months, and the fact that now we've been in a position to present that after the soft launch, and that in the coming days we will inform all our nations, all our community, but it's live, is going to be a major success and a major breakthrough for the Squash community. I think you have a couple of questions maybe to answer on the chat.
Couple of questions. Obviously, the rebate to the federation, there is a rebate throughout the different levels that currently sits at 20%. So WSO will get 80%, and the governing bodies, member nations, will get 20%. That's a question from Lucky, from Rehan van der Werf. Yes, we are working on with each federation, and there will be options, obviously, to provide extra languages throughout the globe. This is an ongoing process behind the scenes. We fully appreciate that at the lower levels, especially, we need to bring this out in multiple languages.
I think there is another one just pop up. No, it's fine.
Yeah, one of my mates from Lithuania telling me, nice work, Roy.
No, you know, also I think for many years WSF and Squash has been perceived as a very conservative international federation, and now with WSO platform, with what we saw with Jesse a couple of minutes ago, I think we really embrace this digital landscape. We are really focused on bringing the right support, the right tools for our community to grow. And as we said, from level 0 to level 5, level 0 also in the for the coaches, we really want to ensure that our community can use the best tools at our really skill to ensure that our sport can continue to grow in the future. The player is going to be always at the heart of our sport, but we need to have the right entourage, and coaches and officials are really on the field of play. They play a tremendous work to ensure that our sport can be seen as as one of the most entertaining racket sports in the world. And I think what you've been doing with at the official level, what we've been doing with Michael at the coaching level, is another really true proof of what Squash can bring to the community. Thank you very much for all your work and this presentation, Roy. And I'm sure we're going to have, in the future, we will hear more about WSO and the major development and the breakthrough for the Squash community that we've done with support of PSA, of course. We're going to give you, there is another question, otherwise, okay, it's good. It's just a comment. Michael, if you agree, we're going to give everybody a 5 minutes break, only 5 minutes. We want to stay on time. We know some people over the world are some late, early morning, so give you a 5-minute break, stay online, don't unplug, just give you 5 minutes to stretch out and come back in 5 minutes. So it's 1:05 UK time. So I see you in 5 minutes for Ronny from the US. We're gonna start after this small break. We got 177 participants, so thank you very much for really attending this first coaching webinar. It's really important for us to have such a level of participants that's really demonstrate the interest that the community has for to develop our coaching in the future. So now I'm very pleased to hand over to Ronny. He's in Washington, DC. We met about a year and a half ago for the World Team in 2019 in Squash on Fire Club. So I'm very pleased, Ronny, now that you can really speak in front of our many coaches about what you've been doing for many years. And I'm sure you're gonna give us a lot of interest with many illustrations. So now, Ronny, back to you, and I'm sure we're gonna be all ears to what you're gonna say.
Okay, thank you, William. So welcome everyone. I'm just gonna share my screen and get started here. So, as William already mentioned, I'm at the moment in Washington, DC. I'm still the national coach of Belgium, but due to the virus, I wasn't able to travel back to my own country. In England Squash, I got my level 4 degree, working as a tutor for World Squash Federation, as already mentioned, and I work as an ambassador for WSF. I'm very happy to join today some kind of knowledge with all of you about match analysis, video analysis, and especially highlighted to the use of Zoom in these difficult days. So I know that many of you using video and footage for, let's say, analyzing matches, and also to find some kind of information that you can use for coaching, and also for, let's say, helping your players to develop to world-class players. So when you start doing match analysis, the first thing, obviously, what you need to know or need to ask yourself is, what do you want to know? What are you looking for? And what information do you need? Because there's a big difference from my point of view. If you use match analysis during, let's say, competitive squash, let's say during a tournament, then you actually focused on trying to give your player the most information, how they can challenge their opponents, how they can track the weak spots, weak areas, let's say the strength of the opponent. So things that really based on the tactics, on the game plan, on the strategy that you're going to use for that match. And on the other hand, you have some kind of match analysis that you're going to use in your development structure to find out, okay, my player, I want to develop my player, I want to make him better. So where should I start, or where is at this stage of his development, where is it important that I, as a coach, supply some kind of information, or supply some kind of a plan? So Zoom is actually very, very easy in that sense that because you can use it when players are traveling, when you are not actually at the spot. And especially in the COVID situation, coaches are not allowed at tournaments anymore. And that means that Zoom became a very useful tool. To be honest, I didn't know before this COVID situation happened that using something like Zoom would be so interesting, because you don't have to be literally with your player. You definitely can get connected with them, even if they live in other side of the world. And from my personal perspective, it helps a lot because I have some players that I made training programs for, living in other parts of the world. I don't see them. Physically, we don't have any contact there. And that's why Zoom is helping me as a coach to give better quality to their programming, to the plans that to the training plans. So you can coaching from a distance. It should be from, not form. So my English, I'm from Belgium. Yeah, what can I do? So you stay connected to your players, and you can prepare them for upcoming matches, upcoming competitions. So when you look at the first part I mentioned, the competitive matches, we're definitely going to look where the points are being lost and where they are being won. We try to identify the areas of the court where the opponent shows the strengths and weaknesses, and we want to identify the area where obviously the player is very vulnerable, yeah, where the player is going to, let's say the opponent as well, where you can actually find a spot where you can hurt them, where you can get some kind of a positive position yourself. It's also, I use Zoom as well for the mental part of the game. If you see that players break down, and let's say they're in a tournament and your own player loses his mind or loses some kind of a concentration, by discussing this using video. Because if I tell some players, you were not very focused on that situation there, or you were not very focused in that game, or not very focused in that match, they go like, huh, why? I was, but then when you can actually literally show them and literally talk through that, and that makes it a lot easier.
Ronny, sorry to interrupt.
Sorry.
I think you need to go on slide view.
Sorry?
You have to go on slide view for your presentation.
Oh.
Sorry, mate.
Because I see my slides. I have my
Now it's good. Now it's good, Ronny.
Oh, now it's good. I know I have it in.
No, Ronny, if you go, yeah, that's right. Just remove the left side so we can have the slide on the full screen. So if you go to the slideshow,
yeah,
in PowerPoint, on the back of the PowerPoint, you go to slide bottom right. Yeah, but please, yeah, click this one.
So what do you see now?
This one now, and after it should be on full. Click on it, yeah. And after you go on top, we don't need to see you when you speak unless you want to say, because we're gonna have a bigger screen. So if you go view options, you go to the slide.
Yeah, but what do you see now? Because I see a full presentation slide.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, let's go for it. Don't worry.
Is it okay now?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so you see the example of an analysis sheet now. Hello?
Yes, Ronny.
Okay, good. So what I use for analysis is obviously you need, once you watch the footage, you're going to use some kind of a system to analyze the matches. And what you see in front of you here is like an example of one of these analysis sheets. It's actually a match from Tine Gillis playing Noor Al Tayeb. And the green dots and the green crosses, that's my player, so that's your own player. And so in these dots, if you see the dot, that means that my player hit a winning shot from that position where you see the dot. If you see a cross, that means the green cross, my player hit an unforced error standing in that position when hitting the shot. So it's not that the ball landed there, but it's where the player was when hitting that that error or that winning shot. The black dots and the black crosses is the opponent. So you see exactly, if you look at this slide, that Noor Al Tayyab scored like about 6 winners in the right front corner of the court. You also, if you know Noor Al Tayyab, you know that that's something that's going to happen because she's a very attacking player. So for my player, obviously, giving this information in between games, I, as a coach, should try to convince her that area is very, very difficult to play in, because then her opponent, Noor Al Tayyab, is going to use that to hit a lot of winners. So that's something very interesting to see on these kind of analysis sheets. And as you can see in the back, you see 4 black crosses there, 2 on the left and 2 on the right. This means that Noor Al Tayyab made unforced errors from the back. So if this information if your players see this in a visual situation on a match analysis sheet, it will help them much more to visualize how they should play in the next game. Or when you do this after a full match, they will be able to understand, okay, when I play next time against this player, how to play, what match strategy to use. Because as a coach, you can obviously not be all the time at every place that the players play. So this helps them a lot. This is game 2 and 3. I'm not going to go too much in depth, but you can see that there's a lot of scoring going on from Noor Al Tayyab, but also from Tina Gillis in the 3rd game in the front of the court. So if we summarize this, that match score was 7-11, 2-11, 6-11. And in the first game, Tina Gillis hit 4 unforced errors. She played 3 winning shots. In the second game, she had 2 winning shots, 3 unforced errors, and 1 stroke situation. In the third game, she hit 5 winning shots, 2 unforced errors, and 2 strokes. So if you calculate that to an average per game, and obviously Tina plays 3 average unforced errors in every game and hit 3.3 winners in every game, and Noor Al Tayyab hits 1.6 unforced and 6.6 winners per game. So if we, as a coach, communicate with our players, it's better to provide these data, because if you say, yeah, you make a lot of unforced errors, but what is a lot? They need to be aware about a specific number of errors and winners. So these are 2 sheets from, let's say, a junior match for 2 junior players. It's a bit more all over the place.
Ronny, sorry, your slides are not changing. Can you, for some reason?
I don't know what's happening here.
You're on slide 7 at the moment for us. Yep, you've moved. You're on slide 10 now.
I was still at slide 7.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wait, we missed this one. So you only saw this one slide.
Yeah, shows. Yeah.
So that's why I asked, because I see something different than you guys.
I think you have to use the navigation on the left to move the slides.
Yeah. So now you see two
slide 8
analysis. Yeah, but you see it in a good form.
Yeah. Yes,
okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so then you didn't see this before. So this is the 2nd and 3rd game from Tina Gillis and Noor Al Tayyab. And what I just said is that a lot of scoring going on in the front. And what I was explaining after was this. So I make a calculation based on the scores and on the games and all the unforced errors and winning shots. And then we come to this, let's say, result that you can see now. I just explained it, but obviously you didn't have the visual what I was telling. So as you can see, first game, second game, third game, that results in an average per game. So you have 3 unforced errors, average for Tina Gillis, 3.3 winners. And for Tayeb, it was 1.6 unforced per game and 6.6 winners per game. The next two slides, the next two analysis sheets you see here, that's from a junior match. And as you can see, it's more a bit all over the place, but obviously the same advantages for you as a coach. You can find a lot of information where players hit winning shots, where they make errors. And if you start to use this in an early stage with your players about making them aware about match analysis, it obviously helps a lot. Okay, so how you will use this information? Obviously, if you are analyzing at the spot, when you're physically at the tournament, you can show these data in between games, making the player aware about certain things like where to play, what kind of match analysis to play. What kind of strategy to use. But very important is don't provide too much information. If you show them actually the sheet that you had made during the game, that's already enough, with maybe 1 or 2 sentences. And because they visualize what they see, and especially if they used to work like that. And give tools that the player will be able to use. It doesn't make any sense to send your player back in the court and say, yeah, you have to play more drop shots if they are very insecure playing drop shots, or maybe they are technically not that there yet to use drop shots. So it should fit to the player. Sometimes you hear players, people like coaches or parents say, yeah, you have to play more volleys. Yeah, but if they don't see that there's a volley opportunity, how can they play more volleys? It's very hard to do. So that's something that you really can also use in your development as a coach for your training sessions, for your training programs. So statistics is very important as well, especially for later development. When you work full-time with a player, that you can use that data and everything and follow it up and see how things change after a while. Okay, so now I will go to another one. Okay, so if you use Zoom, do you see the video now? Michael?
Yes, I'm seeing the video. A little bit slow, but it's okay.
Yeah, that's the problem. But I just want to show you how Zoom can be very interesting here. So Zoom has certain tools. I'm going to show it later, but I'm going to show it already here because this is actually a video footage from PSA. There's a small problem with the video footage of PSA using all the tools from Zoom. Is if you put it on pause, if you say pause, then you immediately get let's say this Alan British open text in your screen, and you actually cannot use something that I will show later in another kind of footage video, because Zoom has some tools that are very interesting to use during match analysis. But as I said, that will I will show you later in my presentation. So just want to show you this because that's very important to understand comparing to the other one. Let's see. Okay, here we go. So this is a match from 2 players in Russia. So as you can see, 2 junior players, Russian national championships. So what I was saying, how you can use this. For example, you could say, okay, you can draw a line with Zoom, like into the T zone, as you can see, and then if you are actually talking with your player to tell them, okay, how much you went to the T, and you can all draw these lines inside of the footage. You can also, let's say, when you stop the video, so then you say, okay, you can use let's say certain things in the screen. You can point at the footwork. You can so you can actually draw, and it's very easy to undo. You just go like that, and it's all gone immediately. So when you do video analysis with Zoom, you can actually stop the footage all the time and draw all kind of situations in. And when you explain to the player, look, you are off balance, then you can use that these tools that you can see from in the Zoom application. You should try that. It's fantastic to use in these let's say match analysis sessions with your player. I did my PowerPoint, yo. Okay. Good. So when we use the video analysis and match analysis for in sense of development, then obviously we're going to look at, okay, where can we improve our players' play, or improve our players' way of playing, and then obviously it has another kind of use, because the one we spoke before is more used as during competition. You're gonna get strategy done, you get a plan, and this one is more for the long term after the tournament, saying, okay, how are we gonna create the plan for our player? Where do things go wrong? So that's where the Pda cycle comes in. I hope you all can see it. This Pda cycle is obviously the main thing of for coaches to teach their players how to play, because it's based on the P perception, then decision making, and then finally the hitting. And as you know, the perception part, knowing where the ball is going to go, knowing what your opponent is doing, that's the main thing that you need to know, because otherwise hitting the ball and hitting the shot has no sense if you don't know where you have to go. And also for the better players, how better and how earlier they see the action of the opponent, how more time they will have to process their decision, or very important in modern squash, is they will be able to hit the ball, let's say, in an earlier phase, to take the ball much quicker. And that's, I think, when you use this video analysis, is a main thing that you can make your player clear. You get all the information out of there, and you can discuss it with your player. And at this stage, as I said, I have some players, they're not able to be here to train with me. So from distance, I can actually get involved quite a lot. So every competition, when you work with, let's say, players that you develop, let's say, full time, we try to do an evaluation, especially when we have the big events. I mean, the small tournaments, I'm not going to analyze all the videos, because then I wouldn't have time for that. But if you have big events, you should and you can make these, let's say, evaluations, and based on the analysis you had, you can actually communicate with your player and say, okay, this is the plan for the next 3 weeks or for the next 3 months, or you make a periodization plan. And I think this, now in this COVID time, Zoom helps me a lot to work with those players from distance, and it creates a lot of quality, I think, because the 3 Russians I work with, so one of them became Russian national champion women, and the other 2 boys you just saw, yeah, they played each other in the final, so obviously one of them won, so that was a good result there. Yeah, so that was actually my presentation about match analysis, video analysis, use of it. So let's see if there's some questions there. Okay, Sam Omidi, I think. I'm not very clear if I can understand that question, but what do you mean with that data science team? I mean,
Ronny, can you read the question first? So
yeah. Oh, okay. How are we taking advantage of the data that is being generated in the squash world, including data from matches, players, and financial sector? Are we taking advantage of cutting-edge machine learning and all technologies at the moment? Any plans to create a dedicated data science team? Or is it just a simple data analysis at this stage? That's a lot of questions in one question. Yeah, from my point of view, the data that I use is only used for my own, let's say, for my own use, to help the players to improve their game, and to be able to set up a training plan for the next period. And I'm not aware about that WSF is creating a database with video footage and science related things, or maybe Michael can answer that one.
No, I can't.
Yeah.
If I may jump on this discussion, I think what we've seen with you, Ronny, is that the importance of collecting data from different sources. And I know that BSF have been partnering with Sports Radar right now. I think every sports try to collect as much data as possible, because it really, as we saw during your presentation, it really facilitates a better understanding about the game and improves the level of playing for the players, because you can really spot on some different weaknesses or strengths and the way he reacts to his opponent or his opponent. So I think collecting data in the future is also part of something that we need to review at the WSF level. How can we ensure that our coaches, our players, our community can have access to the matches, because everything relates to the matches, and how can we have the right, let's say, solutions to provide data so that coaches, players, and even officials, can review the matches, can bring the right solutions and the right skills for the players and the coaches. So this is true that with the different tools that now available in the market, that many sports have embraced this kind of data collection and bring data to their fans. But we need to also take this kind of train and work very closely with the right partners in the future, and maybe also start discussing with PSA the way they are using Sports Radar partnership, and how can we use it for our own events and for community. I have one question for you, Ronny. How long, because we see that you spend a lot of time behind screens, laptops, trying to create this analysis. How much does it take? How long does it take to get there? Is it 25% of your time, 30% of your time? Because it takes a huge amount of time to collect this data, to monitor this data, to process this data, and to digest this data for the players.
Yeah, I also want to share. I'm going to. Can you see this screen right now? Like I put yeah. So that's a good question, William. So first of all, it takes a lot of time. That's clear, because you need to watch the video from the start until the finish. You need to. So when I get a video the footage of a match, so I have to watch it. What we did at Squash on Fire when the COVID situation started, is that I created like a video analysis module, so that even players from lower level, they could have their matches analyzed. So I worked with my coaches to teach. I taught them how to analyze these matches using the footage. It's very popular. We have in our club, we have a system where every court has a video system. So the client or the player can, when they book the court, they can tick the box, okay, with video or without video. It only costs $3. And when they want to have, let's say, video analysis, then they give us let's say they give us a sign, okay, I want to have video analysis. So they can choose between video analysis by a coach or video analysis by me. So I'm a coach as well, but we have let's say two tiers here. And once what I just tried to explain in my presentation, the outcome will be an evaluation. And in the meantime that William was talking, I got this one up here. So after that, I write a report. So as you can see now in your screen, that report is based on a video analysis meeting with one player. This was from a girl, a junior player playing a silver tournament in the US, living in New York. So she's far away from me. She asked me to analyze a match. I analyzed the match, and this is the report that came out. So that's, and then coming back to your question, William, in sense of time, I don't think it's 25% of my time, because that would be a huge amount of time. But I think what I try to do is for the players who really have benefits being analyzed, with video analysis. It's part of their training program. It's part of their, let's say, their deal they have with me. Because if I cannot, obviously you cannot spend 25% of your daily time, or let's say my coaching time, into video analysis, because that would mean that I would spend less time in the rest. And I don't think that would be possible. But if you look, let's say a player like a professional player, 3 months training plan. I think in that 3 months training plan, I spent 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours of match analysis. like watching a video, yeah? If they playing an event, let's say somebody's playing a national championship and sends me, and this live stream, I can then analyze the match. In the evening, we have a Zoom call and we talk about it and say, okay, listen, how it went well today. And I give, like you saw in my presentation, I give all the information to the player. This is what happened today. And if you play tomorrow, this is actually what I think you should try to do.
Thank you, I think, Ronny. And I know that our president, Zena Wooldridge, would like to share her opinion on this specific issue, Zena.
Yeah, just to say, in response to Sam's question about how we use data and taking all the work that Ronny's explained, I think there's also, in terms of a more multidisciplinary approach, the opportunity to apply all of this data approach and some of the line markings you'd put on Zoom to the presentation of the sport when it comes to commentating as well, and how we actually reach the new audiences and how we present the game to new audiences, and taking some of that data for the commentators and the potential of doing that, as for example, they've done in cricket. So the commentator is able to kind of review and present the game through the eyes of both the player and the coach as well. So I wonder whether there's a much greater opportunity there to use data for that purpose.
I think it definitely would help when coaches would commentate on certain matches, because we definitely look from another perspective than, let's say, a journalist. And I find it always interesting to see with simple tools like just a pen and a paper and putting crosses and some circles on a piece of paper, that you can actually create already so much data without having all modern technology in sense of so many movements, so many this, so many that. I mean, if a drop shot goes down or a volley drop or a drive goes down, I mean, I'm still not happy. They all go down. So it's I can see that. So yeah, hopefully all coaches can use as much analysis and data together, and during let's say a level 3 coaching course, it would be maybe a good topic to go a bit further into to data. Okay, I
think to get back to your president point of view, I think we have seen what you can bring to your players and as a personal initiative, and this is what we're trying to do with this kind of webinar, to share best practices. What's going to be important for us in the future is to be able to provide data to all the coaches, whatever their skills, their knowledge, their access to different games through Squash TV or other channels. It's also part of our role to give them access to data to really enhance our sport presentation, to enhance our fans' engagement in the future. And the coaches need some data, but we need also to think about all the different constituents of our sport and how to better enhance our sport, to enhance the sports presentation, and to ensure that we have more engagement at the fan level also. So it's a very important point, and I think Ronny was very important to get your presentation and how you work with your players and how you analyze the data. I think it's very important for the coaches.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add, Ronny?
Yeah. There's still some questions. So Michael Borg asked, what does the yellow lines mean on the analysis? So on the analysis sheet, the yellow lines, I can draw with my finger on the iPad. I can draw the lines. When I put, sometimes when a player hits, for example, a certain specific shot that I think, oh, I have to remember that, I have to tell that between games. So I put a circle around it. If it's a stroke, I put a square around the cross. So that's a bit my personal, how I can use it, let's say the tool. then the next question from Michael Borg is, can you use this application or download it on mobile devices? Yes, that was possible. I used this for many years, but at the moment you can't get it anymore. I mean, definitely not in the United States. So many people tried it, and the name of the tool is Coach Note. So it is a very handy tool. I hope I will never lose it on my iPad, because I just can't get it anywhere. It's called Coach Note. So if somebody of you can still download it in maybe some countries, that would be amazing. Please let the WSF know, or let me know. That would be fantastic, because many people ask me how to get this very simple, very useful tool for squash analysis. Okay, there's some more questions. What was the orange straight lines on the sheets? Yeah, that was the yellow one, yellow-orange. Zoom, is this free or subscription? Yeah, it can be free, but if it's free, then you only can do half an hour when you're online. But that doesn't matter. You can call in again. So you don't need to. If you have the upgraded version, you have to pay for Zoom. But if you just use a simple version, then it's. Do you think a phone call from the coach between games is that good? Yeah, but it's not allowed. So I don't think it's good. I never did it, so I wouldn't do it. Is it possible to effectively use one-dimensional data to help a player? For example, how can we help a player if we tell him you made an error in the right front corner? Now, so Goran, nice that you asked me this question. No, I think the most important thing is, like we try to teach all the coaches, is it's not about the symptom. Yeah, when a ball goes in the tin, that's the symptom that you see. Yeah, but you need to find the cause of the problem. So why is the ball going down, and how can we use that data? That data we can use by saying, okay, in this match you hit 15 balls in the tin. So then the next step will be, why did that happen? And because probably the player will say to you, oh, in training, you hit very, very, very good drops. Yes, but the training environment, and especially when it's a feeding environment, that's really a very dangerous thing to compare with, because most of the time, let's say 95%, mistakes occur by perception failure, not knowing where to stand, not knowing when to hit the ball. So it's not about like sometimes you say, oh, I hit the ball down because my racket face was closed. Yeah, but then my question is, why was your racket face closed? Because, you know, so that's the main thing to you, that you should tell your player or should teach your player. And then you start training in an open skills situation, like rally building. Then you will teach them how to use a better, let's say, that specific shot that you want to mention. When I can, some question from Rashid. He's asking when I can know that my fresh players are doing well. The best way to know if your players are doing well is in competition. There you can actually judge them best. When they improve, you will notice first in competition. When you do better in training, hitting the ball to a certain target, that's an increase of quality as well. But it's the final product is the play. So that's where you want to judge your player if he's doing well. Rashid has another question as well. He says, how do I know if my player is going to be ready to play as a professional player? Yeah, so I think the same thing, being competitive on different levels, then you will see, okay, my player can already compete on this level, so maybe the next step could be a professional career. Do you have any question from Mohsen Javid? do you have any sign between yourself and your players during a match, or prefer give them the data just between the games? Yes, so first of all, I don't communicate with my players during the game. First of all, it's not allowed. Roy is already getting a bit upset there. No, so it's not allowed. Two, it would only bring my player in a very unstable situation, because it gets nervous, can't process that what I want to tell him. So it's better to use the 90 seconds or 2 minutes between games and give some valuable information there. Not too much, because they only can handle, I think, one thing. Maybe the good ones, they can handle two things, but not too much information based on what you saw in that previous game. So I prefer to give the data between the games or after the game. Okay, that was all the questions that I see in my question and answering here. I just want to tell that being in this situation of COVID, that obviously coaching became some kind of a different dimension here, because you can't physically work with your players all the time. Second, that I want to add is that it was a great pleasure for me to be here today and to be part of this community, because I think World Squash tries to create something all over the world that our fantastic sport squash is going to lift to, let's say, a super high level. And I think all people today listening and today presenting are part of this really important journey towards better and improvement. Thank you very much. The sun is shining in Washington, D.C. So I'm happy. Hope you are happy, and see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronny. Thank you very much for the positive message you delivered during your presentation. Thank you very much. Send my best regards to the Laninas family from Squash on Fire. I had a great experience when I was with you about more than a year ago. I think it was very important for us during this first coaching webinar to have you on board and to explain exactly what you're doing, because it really sent a very positive message about how we should use data in a more professional way. And in addition to that, you are right on time. So it's about 3 to 2 right now, UK PM time. So we're going to give you 5 minutes break. So I see you in 5 minutes. So that means it's 57, it's going to be 2:03 UK PM time. Enjoy your break and see you soon. I think we're going to continue now to the third part of our webinar. We got 178 participants, which is very amazing after 2 hours to get such a level of participant. I'm sure they are just dying to hear from you, Jesse, your second presentation. I think it's great to see that all these people waiting for your presentation about the mind game. Are we going to discuss chess or something very intellectual? Are we going to go straight to the physicality of our sport? This is a mystery, but you're going to give us the keys in the coming minutes. So Jesse, the floor is yours, and you got 40 minutes for the last presentation of this webinar.
Awesome. Thank you, William. And thanks for everyone for staying on board. I hope that number doesn't just be like a countdown timer. By the end of this presentation, we'll be on about 2 or 3. So hopefully some of you can stick with me on this one. It's been amazing so far hearing from some of the other attendees. I've sat here and absorbed a bit of these lessons. Yeah, love what I'm hearing so far. So hopefully I started with something that seemed okay, and maybe closing it up with this final presentation. It won't possibly take a full 40 minutes. I do want to leave some time for some questions and answers, but I'm going to dive straight in. But yeah, bit of pressure on me now. Let's give this a go. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you. So I want to introduce you to the whole concept of squash mind. In the lockdown, of course, us squash coaches around the world had a lot more time on our hands. And for me, this was time well used, I believe. I've always wanted to be able to develop something for the mind, for the mental aspect of players, because you know what it's like. You jump on court with a player, you're giving a lesson, and so much of the focus tends to be on hitting the ball. And yes, we can talk tactics and discuss a few things here and there. But sometimes I'm having a conversation with one of my players, we might spend 15 or 20 minutes about mentally preparing for a tournament and what type of visualizations you might use and really trying to strengthen the mind. And then the lesson ends and they go home and there's not necessarily anything that they continue to work with on the mind. So it's always been a bit of a thorn in my side, thinking that how we can get players to continually work on their mind for their whole life, away from the courts, at the courts, different situations. And hence Squash Mind got formed during the lockdown period. Like I said, I was lucky enough to have some time on my hands. Flew out to South Africa about 2 days before the lockdown in the UK, and then got stuck there for 3.5 months, which was kind of nice on a farm in the middle of South Africa. And it just gave me a lot of time to think and bring some stuff together and bring up the concept of squash mind. And it all started with a conversation I had with one of my students saying, hey, listen, I'm frustrated. I can't tap balls on a wall anymore. I can't do guard and ghosting. I really need to work on some other part of my mind or part of my game. And we started talking about the mental side. So I started recording a few lessons for him and sending them just via WhatsApp. And, it was little visualization lessons and, anticipating where the ball's going, or from return of serve to anything that we could come up with that was a weakness in his game. And actually from there, it started to evolve a bit more, built up a bit of a library of lessons and got them onto something called SoundCloud, which is an online platform. And a few more people started using it and the momentum built a bit. But ultimately, I wanted to create an app. And the whole idea of creating a Squash Mind app was formed, and it's currently live. And it's being used probably for the last 3 months by quite a lot of people and being, practiced with a lot of players, which I'm really happy to present it and to show people where it's at. And in essence, it's again trying to lower the barrier for continual work on our mind. So I just want to give you a little bit more of the basics around some of the theories behind the app and what essentially it's built on. So it's a mental training app built as an extension, as a practical tool from a master's research project. So in 2017, I was lucky enough with England Squash and the University of Gloucester to attend the High Performance Award and then do a master's research project based on some of the stuff I'd done. And I loved it. It was great. But the issue was it was still very classroom based. There was journals and studies, and there wasn't necessarily a practical tool. So it spawned a lot from that, a lot of my learning from there, a lot of thoughts about the psychology of the game, the mental toughness aspect, where nerves come from, how we deal with pressure, how we can prepare ourselves for matches and tournaments and anything in life, essentially. It was the idea to make mental training a habit for players. And I've done a lot of research on habit and habit forming, and I love that, all those concepts. I like to think of the app Squash Mind as the gym for the mind. There's actually quite a lot of discussion in regard to the psychology of, people are really into their mindfulness and meditation and psychology. And there was a great discussion around, and these were both, high level, respected scientists in their field, saying, in the 60s and 70s, gyms weren't really a thing. There were a few around, but people used to go for runs and just work out at home. And now we see gyms absolutely everywhere. Everyone knows the physical benefits of working out. And where he says we are now, it's like we were at in the 60s and 70s with gyms, seeing the much more emergence of people working on their mind, their mental state for life, for challenges, for sport, for the work environment. So it gave me a lot of encouragement hearing these two very respected people saying there's so much more of this out there now, and people are starting to really understand and appreciate that working on the mind is as important, if not more important in certain aspects, than physical work. Yes, we've got to back it up with physical as well. We can't just rely and sit there and visualize the perfect game. We need to be able to physically do it at the same time. But the importance of that is key. So the gym of the mind for me was a big one. It's really easy to use. The practical applications to mental training are the strengths of the app, I believe. Currently being used by juniors and adults from varying ranges and abilities, and there's been plenty of positive feedback from it so far. I run quite a few online training programs, and I'll get into that a little bit more about teams and individuals. Currently, the app has 160 lessons, and this is growing weekly. There's something for everyone, no matter the level or ability, and it's going to be slightly more tailored to complete beginners, maybe intermediates, people brand new to the idea of working the mind, all the way up to the pros. So it's going to have different sections and different entry points as well, but it's a relatively easy app to navigate, and I'll show you parts of it in a bit. I believe it's easily accessible. Of course, an app, everyone has a smartphone these days, it can just be in your pocket. It's so easy to, in essence, have your coach in your pocket. And currently it's priced at £6.99 a month or $69.99 a year. So if you go see a sports psychologist, you're looking at, roughly about £45 to £70 for one session. Whereas this, you get, in essence, all these lessons and accessing all these mental tools for the price of arguably one lesson with a sports psychologist. So the three core principles that the Squash Mind business and the app is based on, it's based on visualizations, mindfulness, and theory. So those are what underpin the whole concept of it. So I want to talk about visualizations. I'm going to break them down into little bits as we go along. So the numerous studies I have looked at, and what numerous studies show with modern brain scanning technology, that the exact same parts of our brain are activated and stimulated and also strengthened when we do visualizations, whether that's sport-based or non-sport-based. The brain cannot tell the difference between the real event and the actual physical event. So, or the visualized event and the real event. The brain doesn't have necessarily eyes in the brain, but the same parts of the brain are being activated when this happens. There was a great study done, I think 3 or 4 years ago, on London taxi drivers, where they scanned the brains of these taxi drivers. And if you want to become a taxi driver in London, you have to study something called the knowledge. It roughly takes about 4 years, which is all these streets in London. You're not allowed to use a sat nav. It's all a memory thing. I think there's something over 20,000 routes they have to remember, and they have to be able to just go to them and replay them. When they studied the brains of these London taxi drivers, the part of the brain that was linked to memory, it's called the posterior hippocampus, was actually physically larger. So it wasn't just that they were cleverer, they'd actually grown that part of the brain. It had actually strengthened like a muscle. Doing 20 push-ups a day, that muscle is going to physically grow. And when they restudied these taxi drivers after they'd retired, that same part of the brain had actually shrunk back to almost its normal size. So it just goes to show that when these taxi drivers were practicing and continually doing it, that part of the brain was activated and stimulated and physically had grown. In another study, there was 200 martial artists, and they found that over the course of 4 weeks with visualization, they were able to improve their reaction time by 10%. A Harvard study went on to find that there was a 5-finger piano sequence, and when the brain scans got presented to neuroscientists, the one group only visualized the sequence and the one group practiced, and they couldn't tell the difference which was the practice group and which was the visualization group. The exact same parts of the brain were lighting up and had been activated and had been grown. There was no physical difference in the brain from the visualization group to the group that actually had done that physical practice. And one of my favorite studies is a basketball accuracy study about shooting. So they took one group, well, they tested the whole group. They split them up into 3 after that. One group for 6 weeks had to practice 1 hour every day, actually physically doing it. The second group did the visualization, so no practice, no core time. And the third group did no practice whatsoever as the control group. So as you can imagine, the control group improved by 0% when they came to retest 6 weeks later. Group 1, who had actually been on the court the whole time when we were actually throwing the baskets and physically doing it, had improved by 24%. So, a quarter up almost, which is pretty significant. But what was interesting, the second group, the visualization group, had improved by 23% over the course of 6 weeks without throwing one basketball. But what they did is they went into a lot of detail around the flight path of the ball, the muscles used, the visualization, the ball going through the hoop, and they really did some deep visualization with these people. And that second group improved almost the same as the group that actually physically practiced. And what's happening a lot now in sport is the combination of both. They're starting to do a lot more studies about incorporating visualization into the actual real practice. So that study was done where it was all separated. And for me, I'm really starting to fold that into my sessions, actually having small little breaks in the session, 1 minute, 2 minutes. They pop on the Squash Mind app on their phone. They visualize whatever shot we might be working on or whatever tactic. We go back and do it. So we're doing both areas. We're physically practicing it and we're also mentally practicing it. Athletes, Anthony Joshua, Serena Williams, Alex Honnold, Michael Phelps, Nick Matthew, Noor Al-Tayeb, all put visualization down as one of their key habits that they would perform pre-tournament, during tournament, and after tournament as a reflective process. So hopefully you can see some of the key aspects around visualization. I think we probably all know the benefits of it. And I'm going to get into some of the more reasons. I suppose the ease of use for it is really key. But the second big concept about the app and what it's also based on is this idea of mindfulness. Personally, I love it and I try to practice it, but it's a word that's been banded around a lot lately. And for me, it was trying to clear a few things up when I was building the lessons into the app. So mindfulness is being present and fully aware and engaged in each moment. It's a nice, simple definition of it. With today's pace of modern life, there's continual distractions. Everything is vying for our attention. Netflix, Spotify, notifications on our phone, social media. We feel that we have to continually be busy, and that's a good, well, we perceive it's a good thing because, hey, we're running around and we're really busy, but actually we need mindfulness now more than ever. There's a big myth of multitasking, and studies have shown that our brain cannot perform two highly cognitive tasks simultaneously. We might think we're able to be doing it, but we're switching so fast that we're actually turning parts of our brain off, and mindfulness really starts to help that. And here's what the study showed, that when we attempt to multitask, we become 40% less productive and our IQ drops by 10%. And these were numerous studies. It's not just one study from some random university. This was based on quite a few years and quite deep studies in journal-reviewed documents or peer-reviewed documents. A 2010 study from Harvard, this was one of the more famous ones, by Killingworth and Gilbert, found that our mind wanders 47% of the time. So think about that. That's almost half our life. Our mind might not be in the moment we are in. Where our body is at, our mind is elsewhere and thinking of other things. So that's a significant amount of time. 75% of mental health problems begin between the ages of 15 and 25. 1 in 7 primary school children get diagnosed with a mental health disorder. And tragically, suicide is the biggest killer of young people. And they're starting to bring mindfulness into a lot more lessons now. A few of the American families I work with, mindfulness is part of their classes, the part of their curriculum now. So for me, that's really encouraging. This is starting to happen. Repeated exercise shapes and strengthens our brain. This is called cortical thickening. When we do that, when we're repeating the exercise, repeating it with whether it's mindfulness, visualization, or the physical thing we're doing, it's cortical thickening. And mindfulness works. It's proven to be good for you. And these are some of the summaries of some more studies that I've looked into and brought together here, that studies have shown it increases immune function, decreases stress, helps us sleep better, improves attention and memory, improves grades, reduces procrastination, improves creativity, and improves gratitude and kindness. So all really key things that we either want in our life or to remove from our life, that the toxic stress of things. So that's where the mindfulness bit falls in. And the final bit that the app is underpinned with is the theory. Again, a simple definition around what theory is a set of principles on which the practice of an activity is based. So I don't like to just throw things into the app and go, hey, just do it because I say it is. So much of this is about the education piece, really getting users to understand that actually we're doing it because of these reasons. And this is what studies are showing. And this is what's happening to the brain when we're practicing it. So I think the theory for me is a really big one. And on a personal level, when I was exposed to this as a player, I don't think I was ever really given much theory. I was told to do it and told how to do it, but I was never told why we do these things. And for me, that's a big mission in the Squash Mind model, is to get users to understand why we're also doing something. The theories provide a scaffolding and structure for the user for greater understanding, as I've just said. The aim is to give the user a deeper appreciation of what is happening in the brain when we exercise it and the benefits of continual mental practice. It should give users the knowledge and create deeper insight, curiosity, and understanding. I love that word curiosity. It's something I'm always trying to get my students to understand or become more curious about themselves. And actually, when you can spark curiosity within a player, they become so much more self-aware and they can investigate a lot more things within their mind and their game that they can go quite deep with. Educating users with theory can create a deeper and intrinsic drive, a deeper motivation to continue the sustained practice over a longer period of time. So it does show that when you get presented with theory, that the user, or again, for myself and what I've read around the subject, you're able to motivate yourself more and able to stick at it for slightly longer. And this is, for me, a big one. Squash Mind is trying to distill the knowledge that I've come across or spoken to some people high up in their fields, from lectures to books to journals to talks, in a very easy and understandable and practical manner. I try not to make it very scientific. I try not to use very big words that make me sound clever. It's going, right, I want to be able to distill all this knowledge and this white noise we may have in our lives and get all this information being thrown at us. How can my goal is to try to get rid of some of that white noise and make it a bit more focused and a bit more directed into what we're doing. So I'm going to attempt to show a little video here. I know the Zoom, the bandwidth on the Zoom is not great, but I want to just show you this. I'll probably speak to my panel if it's not working great, but there's a little short video I want to do here real quick. Someone's volume's on. Okay, so this is a simple video around navigating the app. So it's only a couple of minutes, so I want to share this with you and see if it works. So this is a short overview of some of the main features in the Squash Mind app. This is our home screen, and if we notice along the bottom, we've got 4 main tabs: our home tab, lessons tab, pre-match tab, and journal tab. On the home screen itself, everything's laid out pretty easy. There's an introduction section, navigating the app, and our daily check-in all near the top. If we scroll down a little bit, we've got what's called new lessons, and all the new lessons are posted here. A little bit further down, we've got a whole podcast section, and if you click view all, the podcasts open up and users can go listen to any of these podcasts. And slightly further down, we've got our favorite section where users can pin their favorite lessons so they can get to them really quick and easy. Another feature on the home screen are these drop-down little menu. So the drop-down menu has a few different features: a search, a VIP, meditation timers, mindfulness challenges, blogs, and settings. So it's all pretty simply laid out. On the next tab, which is our lessons tab, we'll open that, and across the top, we've got all our playlists. And all these playlists are based on some of the visualizations and the key aspects that users can go through in regard to learning different aspects around the mind for squash. So there's a lot of deep lessons in here, and you can go on any lesson. So for example, playing a bad opponent, the user would open up that lesson and the lesson would start. It's a 14-minute lesson visualization on playing a bad opponent. So if we go back and we look at our pre-match tab there, pre-match tab only has 3 playlists across the top: micro meditations, tactics, and general. And I suppose it is what it says on the tin. It's all about things that we can do pre-match. So if a player needs to focus on the breath a little bit more, do a short meditation, or tactics if they want to learn how to play again, or if they want to know how to start well, or playing against a shot player. There's short little lessons here that players can use just to prime the brain, just getting ready for the match. So stuff like calming the nerves or confidence or reducing anger are great short little lessons for the player to just put on right before the match and get themselves primed. And the final section on the app is our journal section. And there's a whole bunch of different journals that you can see here. And the users are encouraged to go and use these journals as they see fit. Everything from daily and freestyle journals to a bit more detail about best performances, logging their opponents, post-match reflections, and some goal setting.
So all in all, I think the features in this app are going to be useful for any individual, whether you are a really serious player, whether you are a beginner just starting out. There are going to be a lot of lessons and a lot of bits of information that the user can go to and really start to extract some things for their minds in order to play to the best of their abilities.
Okay, so I hope that came across okay and you're able to see some of the main features of the app. And I rattled through that really quickly. So, there's a whole bunch of other things in the podcast, go into a real deep dive with some of the top pros. And actually, there's some sports scientists on there. There's some sports psychologists. There's some physical coaches. And always the question is mental toughness and focus and inner voice and all the things that are really related to the app. So I just want to talk about some of the current work that SquashMind is doing. Like I said, it originally started as just an app and a standalone thing that people could download and use. But when it started to go live, people were reaching out a little bit more and asking for some almost more one-to-one stuff over on Zoom and online. And, the world we live in now, it seems relatively possible to do. So I tend to run quite a lot of weekly and fortnight Zoom calls. I currently am giving a coach education program for the Squash Education Alliance, the SEA, who oversee the urban youth squash programs in America. And it's all about integrating SquashMind into all of these urban programs across the country. So I was really honored to be able to ask to jump on board and give a 3-month coach education package for them. We're currently in our last month of doing it. It's been really well received, and already parts of the app and parts of the SquashMind philosophy are integrating into the program. And these youths are from really tough backgrounds, really underprivileged backgrounds, and the ability to try show them how to be more mindful or more grateful or show kindness and gratitude really grows them as an individual and a player, and then ultimately gets them to become better squash players as well. But actually getting better squash players is not necessarily the main goal. So much of this is sorry, I don't think I'm sharing my screen actually at the moment. Sorry, apologies about that. Here we go. So that's where I was at. Sorry. So much about the education of these urban youth players is, if they become better squash players, great, that's a bonus, but it's a little bit bigger than that. It's more of a look at the whole individual and the whole person. I've currently done some work with, and it's currently on pause at the moment because the season's over with Vassar College and their program. Their coach got in touch with me and we were running weekly Zoom calls for their students. I do quite a lot of individual work now with students in the UK, the US, South Africa, and Australia. And that's been really fun. I again built it up to 7 or 8 individual clients. I'm almost at that capacity of what I can take on Zoom-wise at the moment. And I'm currently doing some corporate training. So SquashMind has dipped into the corporate world a little bit for Dell Computer sales team, using the mindset of athletes and transferring this into sales. And that's been a really cool challenge for me to be able to try and tweak and adapt a little bit some of the lessons learned and the habits and behaviors of high-performing athletes and the mindset, how that can link into the corporate world at the same time. So some of the online lessons, this list can be long. I've got a 30 lesson syllabus, so to speak, but here are some of the main lessons that we tend to do when we do online stuff. And all of this is filtered into the app. But when I do it online with the players, it's a little bit more in depth and there's a bit more tasks are set, and each week there's a different theme. So lessons would include dealing with pressure, how to start well, self-belief, the concept of acceptance, playing to your strengths, how to cope with nerves, what's your training mindset. There's a whole bunch of movement flow. We do a lot of video guided stuff. So with Ronny talking about video analysis, I try to fold a lot of the video guided stuff in there. We do a lot of breathing techniques plus many, many more lessons, but those are some of the main ones, and it goes into a lot more depth with that. What I like about doing the online Zoom stuff, especially with a group, it fosters, or with anyone as well, but it fosters a growth mindset for new ideas, trying to stimulate the mind of the players, getting to think slightly differently, being presented with stuff that they might not have seen before. And this is what I was going to say about the group, the power of group knowledge and sharing best ideas and practices. Almost what we're doing here today a little bit, you guys asking some questions in the chat box, we can go back and forward. But with a Zoom of, say, anywhere between 8 and 15 people, we can really get into that whole idea of really sharing that group knowledge. And yeah, that's a good point. If anyone's got questions, please start putting them in. I've got a couple more slides to show you, and I'd be really keen to ask or answer some questions, what anyone's thinking about SquashMind. And final bit about the Zoom stuff, it creates great accountability and habit forming for continual work on the mind. And that's where I really wanted to take this to go, like, we don't want to just work on the mind at our squash court or when we're in a training session, how can we incorporate this into our day-to-day life? Is there a bit of a morning habit and routine that people are doing? Is there an evening bit of journaling process? That the daily check-in button on the app on the main screen, you press that as a new lesson every day, anywhere from 2 minutes to 5 minutes, short bite-sized lessons. And some of the students have been sending me screenshots of, you know, like a 63-day streak at the moment. So they haven't missed a lesson for 63 days. And that makes me super proud because they're practicing stuff like mindfulness and visualization or understanding some work from the Stoics and some Stoic philosophies. So there's a whole bunch of interesting stuff I think that I try building there for that daily check-in. So I'm really excited to present this because I was only able to get these images a couple of days ago. This is the new journaling section in the app I showed you in the video. And for me, journaling is a massive, massive part of growing self-awareness. It's something I do personally every single day. And one of my favorite quotes, it comes from John Dewey, American philosopher. He says, "We do not learn from experience, but we learn from reflecting on that experience." So if we're having that experience, whether it's a match, a training session, or something really tough, we're actually not necessarily doing learning in there. It might feel like we are, but there's actually some interesting studies show that we're not necessarily learning there. Where the main learning happens is the reflecting on the experience. And that's where journaling comes in. And these journals are going to slightly change. There's a practice journal I'm building in at the moment, but I've built different journals from daily journals, freestyle journals, and the couple of photos on the right. So the two phones on the right, there's an opponent journal. So you keep a log of your opponents. And there's some questions that get prompted to the user. What do I know about my opponent? What worked well last time we played? What do I need to watch out for? What are my simple prompts and reminders? So again, just getting the user to sit with it for a minute or two once they finish playing the match or they think about an opponent they need to play. And the second screen, post-match reflections. You know, I think we all know the benefit of sitting down and reflecting after your match. Some of the barriers are keeping a journal in your bag. It gets all scrappy, it gets lost. You know, there's so many excuses I find with juniors that, you know, they just lose the journals the whole time and they never really bring them to the courts. Now, if this is built into the phone and built into the app, hopefully it's just something that's like, right, it's there, we can do it. There shouldn't be any excuses. And just some simple questions and prompts on the post-match reflections, initial thoughts about the match, what positives can be taken, and what actions do I need to do. And as a coach, you know, you can maybe share this with your player. If you notice on the top right, there's the share button. So you could ask your player to write in their journal and they press that one button and it gets sent. It can get emailed to you straight away after they've reflected. So then you and the coach, between the coach and the student, you can grow that relationship of the journaling process as well. And I'm really excited about this build, and this should be coming out in the next 7 to 10 days with all the final bits going on. And I know a lot of the users that currently use the app have been really waiting for this one because they journal a lot, and the physical journal is great and I love it. But actually, I think this gives a lot more depth and a lot more detail in regards to some of the prompts and some of the directions that people can do to become stronger in the mind when they're reflecting. So I've been very lucky to have some really nice testimonials from some key people around. So I'll leave that screen up for a minute so you can have a little read on some of these testimonials about people who've used the app so far. What I'm also really excited about is when I've done some research in other sports in regard to working on the mind for other sports. There's actually very little out there at the moment in the app world. So, you know, hopefully this is breaking a slight bit of new ground and might filter into other sports. And yeah, hopefully using squashes as my initial lens is a great starting point because I know it well. And it can build and have a platform from there. But yeah, it feels quite nice to be able to get ahead of the curve against some other sports. You know, yes, there's sports psychologists and there's some online stuff, but in regard to the app, there's not many apps that are based around what I'm currently doing. So in summary, to bring this presentation to a bit of a close, the brain is like any other active tissue in the body. It can be built up and toned through the right exercises. We are not born with mental toughness or mindfulness or knowledge. These must be built up and actively reinforced. So for me, we've got to be able to go there and visit these things. During the good times, we look to strengthen ourselves and our bodies so that during the difficult times, we can depend on it. It's our armor plating. It doesn't make us invincible, but it helps us prepare for when fortune shifts. And the three core principles, as I've said in the app, visualization, mindfulness, and theory, They're woven throughout everything I do within the app. And I keep trying to come back to these 3 core principles to make it a nice directed approach that people know what they're getting when they jump into this ecosystem. And Professor Shauna Shapiro, who is both an ardent meditator as well as a research scientist, she sums it up beautifully in this quote about what is happening to the wiring and firing of brain circuits and neurons when we dedicate exercise to it. She says, what we practice grows stronger. Such a simple statement, such a simple line, but for me, it's such a powerful line. And we need to think about that for our mind. The amount of times that we maybe expect players or even ourselves to be calm under pressure, to stay in the moment. All these key things we talk about with coaches, focus on the process, don't worry about the crowd. Those key things for me need to happen more and more. And what we practice grows stronger. So I'm going to open it up to some Q&A now. So thank you for listening to that and sharing it with me. I'm just going to pause for 1 second because I've got my young boy about to walk into the room. So give me 1 second. Cool. Sorry about that. Juggling a bit of childcare at the same time. It's a great challenge. Bring it on. Get some mindfulness at the same time. So there's a few questions which I'm going to jump into, which I see in my little chat box there. So thank you. Okay, here they are. So Yvonne, is the app available in the Google Play Store? Totally it is. Yes, it's an Android and an Apple version. The current Android version needs a bit of a tweak. My developer's working on the moment. It's going to be linked in with this big new build. It works at the moment, but there's a few little bugs we need to get out there. Weil says, hi from Jordan. How can I improve the mental strength inside the court? Hopefully I've shown you a few little things there that might help. It's such a big, broad question now. Where do I start with it? First thing to say is mental strength has to be backed up with the actual physical training. We can't sit there and try and improve our mental strength and, do these amazing visualizations and take ourselves there if we're not backing it up with the actual work. So we've got to put the work in. But when we say mental strength, that's so many different areas. Is it, are you crumbling under pressure? Are you not starting well? Are you getting nervous? Are you getting overconfident? There's a whole bunch of things. But to maybe simply answer that is how I can improve my mental strength. When I've spoken so much to the people on the podcast and researched it myself and gone through the studies, so much of what athletes talk about is staying in the moment and focusing on the processes, forgetting the end outcome, forgetting if it's a win or a loss. How can we get ourselves back into the moment? And that's what Squash Mind does. A lot of the visualizations, we go through different eventualities or situations where your mind has wandered, you're maybe 9-4 up and then you lose that game, and how you can come back on the next game. So a lot of what I try to do is paint different scenarios and situations to work on how we can stay in the moment when our mind is wandering, how we pause and bring it back in. So for me, the 2 big principles there, would be the idea of process driven, focusing on what you can do and what you can control in your processes, and staying present and staying in the moment. That's where the mindfulness comes in. And I think we've all heard about stay in the moment, stay present. But my big issue is, how do we stay in the moment when we've never practiced it? If we go through our normal life and we're rushing around doing emails and jobs and everything's going back and forward, then we play a game of squash and we go, oh, I need to stay present now. It's like, forget it. The pressure's ramped up so much more in a squash situation. And if you've never really just started to bring some mindfulness in, how are you expected to do that under pressure? So that's where the whole concept of the Squash Mind is going, what can we do to fold in our day-to-day lives, this type of practice? So I hope that helps a little bit there with that question. Amit says, how many minutes of mental work do you suggest players should do every day? Great question. For me, it's all about simple. You got to start very simple. This is big habit forming type thing. Don't overreach and fall short. For me, it's mastering the art of showing up. How can I get my players to show up every single day? So for me, as simply as doing 1 minute in the morning and 1 minute in the evening is enough. Okay, you want to build up on that. But if your player can do 1 minute in the morning and 1 minute in the evening, and they cultivate that habit, that's the main power there, is that the ability to turn up again and again and again. And then that can extend and grow. You know, me personally, I don't necessarily do visualization because I'm not competing, but in regard to mindfulness, I'm 15, 20 minutes in the morning and maybe 10 minutes in the evening. And then throughout the day, I've got little 2 or 3 minute micro meditations. So with the players I work with, I try to use a similar model. I'm going, right, get yourself awake, do your journaling process, maybe have a bit of reflection on the day and maybe set some goals. Throughout the day, they might just jump on to the app and just listen to a little visualization on movement, possibly, or something that they would be doing that day. And then I encourage them to book in their day as well, to be able to sit down before they go to bed, set aside 10 minutes. And this is, I'm talking the more advanced people here. But as an entry point, you've got to make that habit simple and achievable, and for the players to be able to step through that door often. That's where that daily check-in button came into the app maybe 2 or 3 months ago. The idea where I was encouraging my players, you know, even if all you do is just press that button once and you listen to a lesson for 3 minutes, you've done something. You're mastering the art of showing up. So for me, that for me is a real big one. So I hope that helps as well. And you know, as a coach, you want to work with your player, you want to check in with them. How's it going? Do we need to do a bit more? Okay, you've fallen off the wagon a bit. How do we get it back on? So there's some, those are the key questions as well. Abhinav says, hi, this is a great concept. We'll be covering the live video analysis in future, like a few other tennis apps. I think that might be a question for Ronny, possibly. Will this be covering the live video analysis in future? I think that's one for Ronny, possibly, so I might leave that there. Robin Clark says, great. Robin, how's it in Canada there? I assume still good. Good to see you on here, man. Jan says, hi, Jesse, how much time, so I just moved, how much time you spend on mental preparation with your players? Maybe same answer there, Jan. It depends for each individual. At a very basic level, if I'm working with a group and say, you know, the first 6 weeks, I really give them basic entry points. You know, I just, again, want to get them to show up. I really want to get them to go, right, you know what, I'm starting to create a habit, and I keep it so simple, because for me, I think we all know we want to change our diet, or we want to do something, or we want to do something amazing. And we end up aiming for like an hour a day or something like that. And we might do it for a week and then we fall short. The idea is, let's start, just chip away at it. And that's what that app is designed for. You know, within one click, one or two clicks, you're in it, you're doing something, you're working on your mind. And then for me, it's like you're cultivating a field. If I've got a farming background, so, you know, you plant those seeds, you come back to it, you water it, you know, you let the sun shine on it, you come away, you let it grow, you come back to it again. And the fact that we got to keep coming back to it is my main bit. And again, the variation of lessons doesn't make it boring. I think there's quite a nice variation. There's lots of different things to do for the mind. Again, visualization, mindfulness, journaling, lots of lessons on theory about athletes talking about visualization. So yeah, I hope that helps there as well. Patrick says, great job. Love the app concept idea. Thank you, Patrick. Took my idea actually. Oh, sorry, I'm ahead of you there. Looking forward to seeing where it goes and the people will benefit. Hey, listen, I think the more of this stuff out there, the better, in all honesty. So Patrick, feel free to get in touch, and, you know, we could maybe get something and talk about it. I'm super open-minded for this stuff. So I don't want it to be like a closed ecosystem in a way. If more people can see this and more people can practice it and get on it and use these concepts, for me, the better. Majid, some of the players are very good in practice, but in the competition, they're scared and can't perform. What do you do for this problem? Great question. Have it very, very often. Training mindsets, that's a big thing. It's hard to know exactly what you're asking there because I haven't seen the player, but I'm very big on getting my players to keep a training journal, a practice journal. And that's the new little bit that I'm building into it. Again, I do it anyway with my players, writing it down, and they're just asking themselves, they set the intentions before the session, and then they review the session and set the intentions there before the next session. And then what I'm trying to get at there is, once that becomes a habit, when they go and perform, even something as simple as reading back on what they've done and just giving themselves a bit of a moment to go, you know what, I've done pretty well here. I've put in a big shift. I've done some really good stuff with my training. You know what, there shouldn't be a reason to be nervous or to change my mind or to be, you know, anxious about what I'm trying to do. So the more players can keep a practice journal, the more they can refer to that in the future if they need that bit of confidence, or they need to calm the nerves, or they need a little bit more direction about the intentions they want to play with. And equally so with that, it gets into the whole concept of the process-driven approach again. The more the processes can be the fact that the player is focusing on, I believe the more chance they have of performing at their best. One little caveat there I need to mention, because I've worked on this with some of my players, this concept of overthinking. Overthinking can come into performance really quickly, especially when you start working on the mind. You go, brilliant, I'm working on my mind, I've got all this cool stuff, I'm really getting into it. And actually a player steps on court and go, right, I'm going to think about everything I've just done. And that's a real dangerous thing. So I'm very big on this concept of when to trust and when to think. And we need to try and separate those out sometimes. And for me, when you're performing under pressure, when you're stepping on the court, the more you can trust, the more you let your subconscious take over. And in Daniel Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast and Slow, the subconscious is 50 times quicker than the conscious. So if we're trying to think about what shot to play and trying to think where our opponent is and trying to analyze, that's really slow and clumsy and often makes the wrong decision because it's very late and reactive. Our subconscious is really broad and wide. It's like a massive satellite dish, collecting information and data, processing it, and then spitting it out. And the more we can tap into our subconscious and let ourselves trust and flow, that's where the real benefits come, I believe. But that trust only happens when there's the thinking process away from the sport, the reflecting, the iterating, the talking with your coach, and then to be able to trust and then to be able to think and then be able to trust and then be able to think. So I think it's a little like a little needle pushing back and forwards between those two, but that needle in the performance side and when you're competing needs to be on the trust side a lot more. The thinking side is for a different time and space. So I'm going off on a bit of a tangent there, but hope that kind of helps. Cool. There's a few more questions here, so I'm conscious I don't want to kind of take too much more of your guys' time. Following up the idea of group knowledge, we could start. So Santiago, sorry, we could start a WSF coaches server on Discord. It's a great tool for community learning. Have you explored this app? I haven't myself, but I love that idea of group knowledge. It's useful to anchor profound discussions around different subjects and to allow sharing information, ideas in a very horizontal way. Great, thanks. There's a little link there. I'm sure maybe Michael or the admins of this group could maybe push that out more. Group knowledge is such a powerful thing, and doing the SEA work and with some of these colleges, I'm one voice and got one head, but actually the more we can share the knowledge, I love that, which is really great. Christian Drakenberg. Christian, how's it? Long time no see. Hi, Jesse. How early should you start with the mind work? Again, good question. I had a 15-year-old boy join one of my courses, and he had a brother who was 12. And I pretty much said no to the brother. I was like, 12 is too young, I think, personally. It's about fun still. It's just go and enjoy. And it should always be fun. Okay, so let me not kind of say working the mind shouldn't be fun. My personal preference is 14, not much younger than 14. And also when the athlete is ready, when the player is ready, you might tell a 14-year-old something now and none of it sinks in. And then at 18, they hear the same thing and it all clicks. So much to do with different maturity levels. But as a rough benchmark, I would say it's at 14. I'm up for debate on that, but for me, 14 is a key one in that sense. Cool. The last couple of questions, because I can hear my boy coming up the stair again. Sorry to ask so many questions. I mean, I've notes. It's great, but this is interesting. In Squash Mind, can the individual coach modify the questions for their players? So great. I actually had this conversation last night. I presented this to another group. And at the moment, no, but the answer to that is yes. So it will be, because I definitely want the coach and the user themselves to be able to modify their questions based on themselves. So I really do like that idea about having it a little bit more open. Currently, when this first journal section goes out, no, but I'm going to build in something where it's a bit more open. Zafia, for players to enjoy the game, I did groups according to age. So this way they play against players the same age. Do that think is healthy or should be open to all? Entirely up to you. I personally have a very open ecosystem in that sense. I let my players, I have juniors, 12, 13-year-olds playing in the adult box leagues. Okay, I prime them for it. I tell them what they should be doing and manners and behavior and expectations. Also, the adults know that they're playing younger people. I think the more they can get exposed to a wider range of styles and variability, the better. Okay, you have to prepare your players for this, just throwing them in and say, hey, go figure it out. That could be quite damaging. But I like that idea of the varied landscape and the varied skill sets that players have to learn to deal with. And again, if it goes wrong, this is a great opportunity to sit down with your player, talk about it, reflect on it, analyze, put things in place for the next time they're in that situation. So age groups are fine, don't get me wrong. And, it's a very natural structure, but I think, possibly ability is a good one if you got group coaching, but also let them play very different levels and ages as well. Okay, last question from Balbol Aziz. Hi, Jesse. Thanks for the great presentation. Pleasure. I know I'll definitely start using the app. Would it be possible for you to share some of your source list on this presentation. It would be very interesting to read more about the visualization. So I'm not quite sure what you mean by source list. Does that mean the coding for the app? Possibly not. So I'm not quite sure what the source list, but you said it would be very interesting to read more about visualization. There's so many lessons in the app. One of the lessons is called the scientific benefits of visualization. So I'll go into the details why we visualize. So I gave you a quick little run through in this presentation, but the app explores more of the theory behind visualization. So hopefully that maybe helps a little bit. Cool. I'll take a breath. I love doing that. But again, very simply from me to everyone else, thank you so much for this opportunity. William, Michael, Zena, everyone working on things. Really, really happy that you're able to let me come on board. So really appreciate that, and hope there's some good things stimulated about the mind. And anyone wanting to know more about Squash Mind, jump onto the App Store, download the app, and it's all there ready to go.
Thank you, Jesse. I know that your son is waiting for you. I'd like to say it's been a mindful presentation for about 45 minutes. It's been amazing. I think we can listen to you for hours. I would like to say that I noted that you said to avoid doing multitask, but it looks like you got a lot on your plate right now. So I don't know how you make it right. All the different activities you've been running right now. Anyway, I'd just like to add one motto, because you mentioned Shapiro, and I'd like to use this one also from Confucius. He said, "Then I hear and I forget, I see and I remember, and I do and I understand." And this is what you want to express today. If you act, we can make things different, because our players, our community can be different in the future. And Squash is different. It's definitely a mindful game. So thank you very much, Jesse. I know you're running right now. Enjoy. Talk to you soon.
Thank you very much.
For your presentation. Very insightful, very positive for us today. Thank you. So now I think we're getting to the end of this first webinar, and I think it's an honor for us to have Zena Wooldridge, our president, WSF president. I'm going to give you the floor to close this session. I think we have learned a lot, we have listened a lot, and we're going to take a lot for the future of WSF. President, the floor is yours to conclude and to wrap up this very interesting 2 hour, almost 3 hours first coaching webinar.
Thank you very much, William. I suppose my job is to just reflect on the last 2.5 hours and bring it down to a 5-minute reflection. But first of all, before I do that, can I first of all just say a few thank yous, and particularly to all of those attendees today for giving up a chunk of your weekend. And I hope you found it as valuable as I have over the last couple of hours. But can I give a special thanks to the presenters today, to Jesse, to Roy, and to Ronny for their presentations. Really fascinating. But also to those behind the scenes who have enabled that to happen. That's to Charlie, to Carol, William, Sarah, who's had to leave, and particularly to Michael, who has been the engine behind the development of a lot of these coaching programs. And I started working with 10 years ago, but it's certainly progressed hugely since then. So just about a few reflections, really. I think we talk about constantly being innovative in terms of what we do and how we do that. And I think what we've seen today is how we can, the opportunity to use technology to hold such webinars to help build that global squash community. And I think that's going to be that global squash coaching community is going to be really important, and how the world has moved to what Roy commented about blended learning. And I think there is such a huge opportunity there, and the power of sharing, whether we call it group knowledge or thought leadership. I think that power of sharing is going to be important going forward. And I hope that's something that WSF is going to really support. I would always say, I think that clubs across the world are the beating heartbeat of our sport. And I strongly believe that the coaches and the quality of our coaches are really critical to how well those hearts beat. And that's whether it's with keeping existing players and keeping them inspired, whether that's about attracting and keeping new players. We've seen today in terms of Jesse's first presentation, the strong emphasis on fun and inspiration in the foundation course, or perhaps we should call it the foundation course. But those the quality pathways for coaches, support quality pathways for players. And how do we use the foundation program, and that WSO to attract a more diverse coach and referee community, because I think that diversity and inclusion going forward, certainly within WSF's strategy, is going to be really important going forward. And we need more female coaches if we're going to attract more female players, and we need more female referees. And we need to, all of us, all of you out there, and all of us need to encourage and inspire a more diverse coaching and referee population, including Squash 57 and the whole range of disability sport as well. But that gives us the tools that we're developing through that, the innovative approach and the virtual approach, means that those tools are more accessible to more difficult to reach parts of the world. And I think that's going to become more and more important to us. And our strategy as well, going forward, I think it's important that we provide, as WSF, relevant programs and relevant value to both member federations and directly to players, coaches and referees through our SPIN program. And we're seeing two of the early tools here that we can be using to do that. So I think today we've talked about what the critical role of the coach in developing the sport. And I think there's a vast amount of material and subject areas that we could use through these webinars to bring to you the important global squash community, how we build that community going forward, and we can reach more people. So thank you to you all for your contribution, for your questions. And I'll just leave it on the quote that Jesse mentioned earlier, to re-quote him: "You're only one step away from changing a young person's life." And perhaps we can build on that in our future webinars going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, President. I think it was the best way to close this first webinar. I think this is the first of a series we're going to further discuss with the Coaching Commission. But we see that 152 participants are still attending after 3 hours. That means there is a strong appetite for this kind of webinar. We have a lot of things to communicate, to share, to listen also from our community. And I think moving forward, it's really the right tool. Of course, we'd like to meet in person, but right now this is not the case. So I wish you all the best for the rest of the weekend, keeping safe. Thank you very much for all the participants, all the panelists. Big thanks to Carol and Charles behind the scene. It was a great honor also for us to have you, President, to close this webinar. So thank you also, Roy. I think WSO is on the right track right now, a couple of more days. And Jesse, foundation course, a couple of more days to wait, Michael. So we'll be showing the rest of our community that we are moving in the right direction. We are progressing. We got some great programs to develop our sport, and we should be very confident about the future for squash. Have a great weekend. Thank you very much all, and keeping safe.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.